and I'm going to give this over to Rich.
Hey, Frank, could you possibly take some notes? Or maybe Andrea, if you could take notes until Jennifer
I
can arrive.
I can do it.
We do have the recording,
Since
so
it's being
Jennifer.
recorded. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, she could reconstruct it from that, but.
Oh, hey, don't worry. I take excellent minutes.
Okay. So just call Rich, right? Andrea, Steve, Joe Carpentino, McCarthy, Jason, Joe. Hi all, we're just getting started. We haven't started the meeting officially. We are recording the meeting now, so keep it G-rated. We're just gonna wait for everybody to call in. If you've called in, if it's possible, if it's just by your phone, I guess we'll have to figure out who you are. If you're a WPCA member, there's one call-in user 2. I haven't figured out who that is. But we do have a quorum. We're missing, I believe, Randy Nixon and Dimitri.
Mm-hmm.
Dimitri, are you here? I don't hear you, Dimitri. There is caller and user number 2. I don't know who this person is. And that's okay, you know. Steve, you're on mute, and it looks like you're in your remote location again.
Frank, are you on vacation?
I know this is a picture of Mount Whitney. I was there too. Wow, gee, how many years ago was that? 3 years ago now. So we actually tried to get up there, but the road was closed, so we hike up quite a ways, but didn't get to the top because
Is that snow covered?
snow cover almost the entire year.
Wow.
It's 14,000 feet high.
So we're going to get started in a minute. I'm just going to hold off a couple minutes because there's one person that hasn't been able to get on this yet, and I know I had a little trouble myself for some reason. My computer, I clicked the button and it just took forever to log in. So I'm going to mute everybody, and then you should be able to unmute. Those WPCA members can unmute yourself. Okay, so WPCA members, can you hear me? Yeah, okay. we're going to get started now. So this is the Town of Olime's WPCA regular meeting. This is Rich Prendergast speaking. In tonight's meeting, James Burge, one of our members, is not able to attend. It looks as if Randy Nixon has not yet attended, and Dmitry Tolchinsky has not. Oh, Dimitri's here. Gotcha. So Dimitri's here, and all the other members are here. We have a quorum. We're going to go through tonight's agenda. There are no special issues with tonight's agenda. Just kind of run through it real quickly for those who are attending. It's on the town website. We're going to do approval of minutes, budget updates, the business and sound view, cost sharing agreements, design considerations, sewer ordinance cap, additional funding. Then we're going to do correspondence, and then we're going to do new business, and then we'll have an opportunity for the public to make a comment, and then we'll do adjournment. So with that, I went through that pretty quickly. Now I'll just go through it line by line. First up is, can I have a motion to approve the minutes from August 10th? So Frank made a motion. Can I have a second from the PCA member? Joe Carpentino gave a second. Open discussion. Are there any issues, questions, changes from those minutes? Dimitri, did you want to make a comment?
Comment about what?
I saw your name came up as speaking, so maybe it's just that you made some noise. That's all.
No, I tried to speak. My microphone was off. So
Oh, okay, no problem. So I'm not hearing any comments, questions, changes about the minutes. So now I'll do is a roll call of all those in favor of the WPCA committees in favor of the minutes from August 10th. Please raise your hand. So I see, let's see, Frank, Joe, Steve, Dimitri.
Yes.
Yes.
I don't know why I'm not on the screen. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. Andrea, how do you vote? Do you agree with the minutes? You're mute right now, Andrea.
Yes, I agree.
Okay. Let's see. Rob McCarthy, do you vote yes?
Yes.
Okay. All those opposed? It's unanimous, so I didn't think there would be any opposing. So the motion carries. Take down some notes. I should point out, is there a comment? No. Okay, moving on to the next agenda item is the budget and expenses update. So for that, I'll hand it over to Joe Carpentino. If you'd like to give us a budget update, that'd be great. And in any invoices. I think you're mute. Oh, there you go. I still can't hear you. I still can't hear you. If it's just me, or can other people hear? Oh
I
boy.
can't hear.
Looks like Joe's still muted.
Yeah. Unmute temporarily by holding space bar.
How's that now?
There you go.
Good. There you go.
Okay.
We're gonna figure this out.
All right. I'm gonna try something. I'm gonna try and share my screen now. Let's see how this goes.
Oh, excellent. High end.
Yeah. So if you can let me know when you see it.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet, but it's
Okay.
probably coming.
Well, while it's loading, I'll give a quick sort of a quick insight here. What we're going to pay attention on this screen share are the yellow and green highlighted lines. It's where we had some expenses for this go around. Is it up yet?
No, not for me.
Not for me either.
All right.
You know, maybe just try whatever you did, just try and redo it, because sometimes I've had that where I had to do it twice and then it worked.
Okay.
There you go, Joe.
Look at
Okay,
me,
so
high tech. All right.
excellent.
Can you see my screen now?
Yes,
Oh, it's loading. Ew.
Steve, I
I
can't
can
help
see.
that you're up in the Arctic. All right. So
These are changing.
what I was mentioning earlier is we have some highlighted lines here, and that's where these current period expenditures are occurring. So the first line here is our clerk fee, $93, leaving us with $17.55, 95% remaining. Big line item this month is a $3,000 charge from the law firm Levin and Christ that we pulled from our legal counsel budget and bringing us from 45,000 down to 42,000 with 93% of that remaining. The third is our is a Fuss and O'Neill invoice for $81.21. That is I propose to be drawn from our project consultant fund, bringing us from 25,000 to 24,900. We have a whopping 99.7% of that remaining. And that's where we stand today. Our total budget for the WPCA is at $85,773. And I do need to correct that because that is not 100%. And we should have, obviously we'll have more next month, but that's really in a nutshell this time around.
Okay, great. Any questions about the budget update and expenses? Yes, Steve.
I just want to thank Joe for providing a spreadsheet every month. It's much easier to track. I think it's good for all of us.
Thank you, Steve. When you have a small brain like mine, you need to keep on top of it.
I think you're pretty humble. I don't think that's the case. So there was an issue from a budget thing that from last month that I thought, Steve, you were going to mention, but I'll bring it up. So we have an outstanding bill from bond counsel for $20,000, and I have not made any progress on that. This goes back multiple years, and I was kind of shocked by it. So I have to have a meeting with them, although I'm afraid to have a meeting with them because it'll cost more money, but I guess I have to do it. I'm going to start with a phone call at least, and I promise to put that on my to-do list. If there's no other questions, I'll move on to the next business item of the agenda. Okay, I'm not hearing any, so we'll go to item 4, business. The Soundview Sewer and Miscellaneous Area B project, status of cost sharing agreements. The first status I'll talk about, and the second I'll ask Frank to talk about. So the news with the IMA intermunicipal agreement with New London. It has been signed by the WPCA chairman. We have paid our fee that we planned to pay and agreed to pay to join it. That was a $10,000, I'm not sure what you call it, a signing fee that goes towards, our total bill anyways, but it's something they required in order to go through the areas. It is now, the document is on the September 20th City Council agenda to have it signed at that point. So September 20th, we should have a completely signed agreement. Probably after that, we might get a bill from their legal, which Joe and I will look at. And so that's the status of the New London IMA. At this point, I'll hand the microphone over to Frank to give us a status on the East Lyme IMA.
Yeah, East Lyme IMA seem to be running a little bit of obstacles between the two sets of lawyers drafting the amendment. Amendment is actually pretty straightforward, just adding us and then allocating the additional conveyance fee to us for our volume. So I talked to East Lyme Town Hall, and we have we're trying to narrow down a date this month to for the two selectmen to discuss with their lawyers, so that we try to remove any obstacles that might be in really getting the paperwork done. The agreement was reached months ago between the selectmen. Is just, I think it just requires a little motivation from the principals.
So to summarize a little bit for what Frank's doing is he's set up their renewed interest and kind of taken a leadership role in this. In the past, I don't know if you mentioned it. You might have mentioned it that technically the beach associations wanted to make the introductions and use their legal to make the introductions, and that didn't work out for us. We didn't make enough progress, so they agreed to let us go back into getting into it, and that's what Frank's doing. And so I thank you, Frank, for doing this, because it helps to share some of this workload. And I think you're going to be great when we have the discussion with them, because you've already had this discussion in the past, and they agreed to it then. So anyways, is there any questions regarding the IMA stuff before I go into the next issue with this line item? Okay. So the next thing is kind of a late breaking. Did someone have a question? Okay. I'm trying to give enough time, because sometimes people probably have to unmute their phone and or their screen or whatever. So if I don't give you enough time, just interrupt me and I'll go back to whatever subject. So this is kind of a late breaking item that came out, which was the cost sharing agreement between the town of Old Lyme and the private beach associations that are putting in a sewer system. And the cost sharing agreement is a document meant to share resources to save costs. When we first started out this project, we learned that the design part would be halved if one design engineer group did the design versus two separate units that are similar size. And the long and the short of it is we'd save money by sharing resources, especially resources of a pump station, what's called a force main that leaves the pump station, and a trunk line that connects all the properties to like one line that goes into the facility. Anyways, we've had some discussions and some renewed interest. We have an agreement for a cost sharing agreement that spells out all the things that we're going to do and when we're going to join as part of our plan. The plan was they'd start building the pump station and then we'd join the cost sharing agreement. Now it seems as if there's advantage of joining the cost sharing agreement now, even though the construction has not started or before the construction started. And we would then share the construction costs by our percentage, which is based on the size, the number of residents and commercial properties we have in their effective flow, called the equivalent dwelling unit, of which we are 29.7% of the beach association's volume. And this cost sharing agreement, when we sign it, it helps us get our Clean Water Fund application to get loans and funding for this project. So we're now kind of pushing to have this agreement worked out. it has been drafted. We have worked out in the past, and we have a couple new players, new representatives in the beach associations. So we're kind of renewing some discussions about what we've discussed in the past. But there's a couple of things that I wanted to bring up, and I sent an email to the WPCA members, and I know you didn't have a lot of time to think about it, but I'm just going to bring up a couple subjects, and if we have an open discussion, I'm not looking for a motion, but I'm looking for, to get some feedback, really. And the first item is that Frank and I continue to have discussions with the beach associations, and that I think is a smart thing because I've built an understanding, and I think Frank has built an understanding as well of, well, how to interact with the beach association representatives. So I'll be quiet now. Steve, did you have a question or comment?
I have maybe a comment. I think some of this discussion is really for an executive session, Rich.
Okay.
So I'd like to make a motion to, I don't know if we can.
Well, if I interrupt you for one moment. I don't think we can do an executive session tonight from a technology point of view, because
Okay.
I don't have Jen working this and then set up another one. But we can do
So-
another one some other time, or we can have a special meeting. So just throwing that
So
out
then
there.
I would humbly suggest that we keep this broad and not really discuss many of the points. I mean, I do agree that you and Frank should still be talking I don't think anyone should ever stop talking. But on some of the finer points of what I read, I think that we might be better off going into executive session to speak a little more openly.
Fair enough point. I mean, I don't want to hurt our negotiations and leverage, and I don't want to cause any more trouble. And Frank and I, I don't know, we spent like maybe 12 months on the original agreement, hammering it out. It felt longer. So I think we have a good handle on these things. And let me describe the process too, which might help anyone else who's thinking about this in the WPCA, that we're going to try and hammer out the details and represent the WPCA and the town of Old Lyme. And then when that document we feel is comfortable, we're going to have an executive session. We're going to have the WPCA make a recommendation, a motion to make a recommendation to authorize me to sign it on the condition that the Board of Selectmen sign it, which also means that the town's legal review it. So none of this is going to happen quick without, oversight. So the questions that I was thinking about and feedback, I mean, I have my own opinion on it, but I just want to lay out that I'm not going to agree to anything that is not already reviewed. So with that, I'm probably going to skip the actual details discussion, based on your suggestion, Steve, and I open it up to anyone else that wants to talk about this. Okay. I'm not hearing any other discussions. So that's all I had on the agenda that was 4AI. I'm now going to go into the 4AII, the design review considerations and update from design review task force. Recently, there was a meeting, and Steve is the chairman of that committee. And the way that works is they research topics and they come up with solutions. And I believe I'll hand the microphone over to Steve if you want to go over. There was, I think, 1 point, maybe 2 points that you wanted to talk about and possibly even make a motion.
So,
Steve?
yeah, we met last Wednesday, full meeting, and basically our discussion was on response to the abandonment of wells from 25 to 75 feet, because less than 25 have to be abandoned, over 75 don't fall into our jurisdiction. So Frank gave us a breakdown. I think it was had 9 responses out of 17. And we discussed different methods of trying to get the remaining responses. I would have to say that one person, the certified mail was returned, so we're looking at another way of contacting them. But to sum things up, we're going to send out another mailer, certified mail to the people that did not respond. Frank has written that letter. I don't know if he's received everyone's comments. I know he hasn't received mine. I'm sorry, Frank. He did get it out as promised late last week. I've reviewed it. I just haven't. I have a couple of minor comments. But we've decided to bring forth to the full board that. So the discussion that we had really centered around how many notices are enough notices before we say enough is enough. It could be 2, it could be 50. You know, when do you say we've given you enough opportunity to respond to us, and now we have to design our system? So we discussed that for quite a while, and the committee came up with 2. So we've already sent one out, all but one, because the one person didn't receive it. And now we're in our second mailing that we're going to send out, stating, you know, what are your intentions? If you don't respond, we're gonna have to design a system that's going to cost you, you know, whatever the cost is to sleeve it through your house. So that's where we're at on that item. And so what I'd like to put forth, I guess, to the whole committee is, do we think that we've decided as a group that 2 notices is a fair amount of notices considering it's certified mail? So we know that they've received it. We know one person hasn't, so we have to find a different way to contact them. And we also decided that not only are we going to mail, but we're going to call to notify them, you know, expect this mail coming, or you may have just received this mail. This is what it entails. This is what we're going to propose, you know, from a WPCA point of view. It would be better if you abandon your well, we'll pay for your water installation, you know, explain it a little to them, though the letter does also. But in any event, what we decided on, as far as mailings are concerned, to cap that at 2. And so we're proposing to the board that we vote or have a motion to cap well abandonment notifications and inquiries, or well abandonment certified mail, to 2 mailings, and then proceed on design from there.
So, Steve, I think that was a motion that you just made, correct? That was your intention?
That's what I would like to see as a motion. Yes, I guess I can make that. I'm not chair
Yeah,
of this
you're,
committee.
it's okay to make a motion yourself.
So I would like to make that motion. I'd like to make a motion.
Hold on one second. Hold on one second. I don't know how much it costs to send the mailings. It might be expensive per unit, but not that expensive, and it's not going anywhere near
No, it's not.
postal budget. Right, Frank?
No, it's not. It's maybe $7 a mailing, $5. I mean, it's not much. I've sent certified
Okay,
mail before.
so we don't need to have any financial motion because we're not
I wouldn't think
budget.
so.
And that's all I wanted to clarify. Go ahead, Steve. Go ahead, make your motion.
I'd like to make a motion that the WPCA limit the amount of certified mailings to residents that have to, that may have to abandon their well, to 2 mailings. And after that, proceed with design drawings based on responses or non-response.
Okay. Can I get a second? I didn't see anyone raise their hand.
Second.
Someone, Rob McCarthy, the second. Open discussion, pros, cons, anything, concerns, questions?
So this is
Uh,
Andrea. I have no problem with limiting it to 2 certified mailings, but I really liked what Steve was saying, that there would be a follow-up call and discussion. I mean, Steve, I think sometimes people will want to hear from you. You have a nice way of presenting things and talking things through, or the committee. I think that would help come to resolution.
I
Okay,
have a question also.
yes, Dimitri, go ahead.
How many wells do we have to notify owners about? How many houses needs to do that?
So as I said, there are 17 homes or residences that are concerned. We received 8 replies. 1 non-reply due to return certified mail. So that would leave 9 total. 9 more. 17
you-
total, 9 more.
Could we know, or could you just announce or put it maybe on the site what, how many owners, I mean, who are the owners of those houses and addresses of those houses?
On our website?
Yeah,
Well, because I would like to know, because for example, I have a well that I'm not using. I'm connected to Connecticut Water myself. And if I have to abandon, I never received anything. No, I don't have a knowledge if I'm listed in this.
Well, you may not be in the
keep out
your
zone.
well may not be in the distance that's required for notification and permission.
All right.
So at this point, Dimitri, I don't think publishing people's names on our website is
No. Can we know, just our commission, can we know?
Yes, yeah, I think the names can be part of the thing, and I think Steve can provide those names as far as the houses. And I think,
yeah.
we're gonna have, Steve, you're gonna divvy up, maybe split up who's gonna make phone calls, so you don't have to do
Yeah,
all
I
the
mean
work.
yes, everyone will have them, because if especially we're going to give you the names, and if you know one of the people, it would be far better for you to call them than me.
That's correct. This is what I would like to know, that if my neighbor has a well and he is listed in this group, I can just talk to him and explain to him about it.
Yep.
Okay, so one of the things is, this is motion successful, that then we're gonna have the list of the names, the letter that's going out to the WPCA members, which describes all the details. And Steve, I think, is going to ask for people to sign up for calling the people. This will be a one-way communication, so we don't end up having like a regular meeting offline. That's not going to happen. It's just going to be a one-way communication of, here's the list and an action item. So, any other comments, concerns about this motion?
It's Frank Chen here. So I understand that there's time constraint on the engineering company too. So we can't go on forever. So we basically have a month left to get the answers.
I think that was a message for Jason, if he wanted to comment about the timing of this.
Yeah, it's information we need in order to finalize the design. So, the sooner we get it, the better, in terms of, finalizing where we, have the additional protections and where we don't need them. So I think we talked about a couple of months at the meeting last week.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, concerns related to this motion? Okay, I'm not hearing any, so I'm going to call for a vote. So if you're for this motion, could you raise your hand? And I'm going to do roll call. So I see Steve, Frank,
Dmitry is for.
Joe, Dimitri. Andrea, how do you vote? Yes.
Raising my hand, yes.
Okay.
Rob is yes.
Rob is yes. Okay. Any of those opposed? And there aren't because this is unanimous. So that motion carries. Thank you, everybody. Steve, was there other issues you wanted to talk about from the design review?
I just wanted to state that we did review old correspondence. I mean, it was old. It was sent a day prior to our last task force meeting. I didn't take it up at that time because I didn't think we had enough time to prepare. It dealt with grinder pumps, and it was from Mary. Can you help me out, Rich?
Mary Daly.
Mary Daly. And we went over each item that she had. We discussed whether that would have changed our recommendation at all about grinder pumps. It was unanimous that it would not have changed, that though there are points to consider, it would not have changed anyone's mind that we would have voted differently to install the grinder pumps where Woodland Curran has preliminarily indicated. And so there's no reason to revisit that issue. In retrospect, maybe it would have been better to have that correspondence with her, but everything was sent out. I mean, it was received at 4 p.m. the day before by me, by email the day before our meeting. I just didn't have time to review it and discuss it, but no one's mind would have changed based on the information contained in that email. So, and I think that's it, unless I'm missing something, Rich.
I have
No,
a question.
I wasn't gonna. That's what I thought you wanted to talk about. Go ahead, Dimitri. You have a question?
Yes, I have a question, Steve. Can we have addresses of those houses that need the grinder pump, where they are located? And also, when Richard stopped by at my place, I told him that we have a lot, 3/4 acres of lot between police station and Sound and Swan Avenue that belongs to the town. And maybe this lot could be used for the pump station that could eliminate those grinder pumps. I mean, that maybe would be considered. Richard didn't know that this land belongs to the town.
Well, I didn't know that. That's true. But what Dimitri, you're talking about the lot that's across the street from the former church and adjacent to your property?
Exactly.
Yeah. We did have a discussion about locating a pump there, and we'd have to use a vacuum system. And it was decided way back when, years ago, that wasn't preferred because of that.
Okay, I didn't know it was considered.
Yeah, I knew there was a lot up there. I just didn't know that lot was. So go ahead. Steve, do you have a question or comment?
So we can get the information to members. Actually, I may have it because Mary Daly asked for it. I believe received information on who right now is slated for a grinder pump. So it's public information. I'll try to dig it up and send it to you.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other issues, comments? So at this time, I'm going to switch to the next item, which is for a III Sioux Ordinance Gap Update and Planning. And I'll hand it over to Frank. I'll just say that I think come a long way with the ordinance. And go ahead, Frank.
Yes, we received comments back from the tax lawyer. All the comments are pretty straightforward, so I got them all integrated into the ordinance. It doesn't change the ordinance, just as clarifications. So I think we're ready to put it out for public comment.
So we're going to go through that process, and we already had a motion in one of the meetings in the past to go ahead and do that. So we're going to, figure out the process of that, and that requires coordination with the selectman's office, their staff, to publish notices in the newspapers and that kind of thing, update the website, and I think what the process is, we publish it, and we have a way for people to write in concerns, questions, comments, and then we review those concerns, questions, comments with the ordinance. And I think we then have scheduled at a town meeting an agenda item to approve it. And I have to consult the selectman's office for that process. So that's not going to happen fast, but it's we want to be ready in time. Are there any questions about the sewer ordinance gap updating item?
Just one question, Rich. I think as part of us making it publicly available, we have to officially have a public hearing as the WPCA, and then it goes on to the town meeting after that, right?
Yes. So well, maybe I wasn't describing it correctly. I think we have to publish the advertisement of the existence of it, make it available to everyone. And you're right, we have to have a public hearing, but I think can be written in, and then maybe actually have a live meeting or a virtual meeting or something like this. Because of the pandemic, it might be a little different than it was done in the past. And then I think we have to put it on the agenda for a town meeting. And at that point, the recommendation from the WPCA would say that we've resolved all the issues. We might make adjustments to the ordinance or whatever. And the selectman has to agree to that. And then I think they have to agree to having it added to the agenda, because we don't control that agenda. And this is a new one for me. So, I'm just, we're going to go with the advice of the selectman's office that actually knows how to do this kind of stuff. Okay. Any other questions, comments on this subject? Okay. So I wanted to talk a little bit about this next item, 4B, additional WPCA funding. You may have heard, you may have not have heard, the cost sharing agreement of the private beach associations went out to build the pump station, the force main, and the trunk line. And the first round of bids came back with hardly anyone bidding on it, and too high, in our opinion. So some things that were done, at the time thought was the best practice, but turns out that maybe they weren't best. So they rebid the process. They broke it down into smaller pieces. They gave contractors or bidders more time. They had 3 meetings to answer any questions for the bidders. They now have 8 bidders applying. And the hope is that we'll get a more competitive bid, more in line with the original estimates, cost estimates of the sewer project. Now, in addition to that, recognizing that it's higher than it was when we started, there's been renewed interest in going after lots of different funding. So let me take a look at my notes here. So I was lucky to attend a meeting with Joe Courtney, a representative, and Joe Courtney's funding person. And what she did is she ran through 5 or 6 different potential funding sources for the sewer project. Unfortunately, a couple of them didn't have a good chance of success because one of the issues was the need of the town of Olyme. The median income actually was higher than would make it easy to get that money. But there was some funding available, and the American Rescue Plan from the Biden administration currently specifically has language for this type of project. Now the town is going to get money for this project or for American Rescue Plan, and there's a committee being set up to go through and figure out what's appropriate for this program. And what has been stated by the first selectman's office is they have to do a transparent, fair evaluation of where this money should go. And they don't believe it all automatically goes to the sewer project. The amount of money that this funding source would do will definitely help, but it's not going to make it like everyone hopes it to be. Like it takes most of the cost of the project. It's not that at all. From a perspective of getting maybe $500,000 to $2 million would be fantastic, and it'll lower the cost obviously, but it's not going to make any huge debt when you have basically 4 projects. There are additional fundings that we're going after that in the past apparently clean water funds and the deep do not like doing, because it makes it more complicated, but they're going to have to accept it because that, or they're going to have to give us more money, one of the two. And the idea is, we've stated this all along, is to try to get as much funding as possible. Wood and Curran, our engineers, have a funding expert as well, and she has validated everything that we've learned so far and is helpful on this. So the bottom line of this is it's a new project, kind of side project, that the private beach associations have taken on, and they're including us to try to get additional funding for the sewer project. The funding in the form of grants is what we're after. We already have loans, attractive loans available, but more grants. A side issue that came up is during the evaluation, there is funding from other sources that will handle stormwater drains, which are not sewer projects. And there's specific funding for stormwater drains. And apparently there's some places around the town of Olyme that have some stormwater issues. There's one discussion about a place where there's a wooden crib that's you can imagine wood just is not really the right material for a stormwater drain long term. There's some other issues like that, and I was reaching out to the Soundview Commission, Frank Papalardo specifically, and ask if he could help me identify needs in Soundview. What has done in the past with these stormwater things is that the grants fund the entire project, which is fantastic, especially if you have properties that sometimes flood because there's heavy rains and the stormwater drains or the troughs or the things that we use have no place to drain, and we've seen this in this areas. So we're working to try to get that funding, and I guess I missed another point of my thing about the bids update. We're probably going to accept or we're going to review the bids for the shared sewer infrastructure. Looks like it'll be in October. So I just kind of went through a lot. Does any of the WPCA members have questions or comments? Go ahead. Steve, do you have a question or comment? You're on mute, Steve. Sorry, you're gonna have to repeat yourself.
All right. I guess I have a question. I'm unclear whether we've already bid if the second round of bids have come in, or if the second rounds of bids have been picked up by 8 bidders and we're awaiting bid.
Oh, so I can explain that. I'm sorry if I was confusing. So we went a first round and did a bid for like a super monster project. And that was unsuccessful. We got permission. When I say we, the Private Beach Association got permission to change the bid and then go back out to bid and break it up into smaller pieces, which we've got some feedback from some suppliers that's saying that they just weren't interested in doing the massive bid, but they're interested in doing parts of it. So that rebid has gone out. It's out there. We've had meetings and we have 8 interested bidders. And they have not submitted their bid yet. They have time. And you got to understand these projects, they're getting estimates from subcontracting some of the work. And this type of project, you can't do it fast. Some people think, well, I don't understand. Why don't they just know what their price is? It's not that way. They have to do some research on it before they feel comfortable doing it. And we expect that to be in October. Like they send the bids in, and then I don't know what's going to review them and see what happens from there. Go ahead, Steve.
Just like to make one other comment. The supply chain in this country is I don't want to say ruined, but it's majorly disrupted. I was looking for pipe on a project that I'm doing up here in Vermont. I had to go to Connecticut to find it. I called every supplier from Burlington down to Connecticut. And I couldn't believe when the guy said, yeah, I have that. I was like, can you check? Because I don't actually believe that you have it. They did have it, and I rented a trailer and brought it up here. But, you know, so everything is out of whack. Steel pipe, steel drain pipe is less than plastic pipe right now. I mean, it's just they don't have the resin to make plastic pipe. Plastic pipe's proof. The supply chain is for construction is tough. Rental companies have 24 trucks to rent, but they only have 11 available because they can't get parts to fix or repair their stuff. So that could also be contributing to a small degree the difficulty of actually obtaining a bid and also locking in pricing. So, it's a tough time to put a project out to bid right now, I think. So,
Yeah, what I do for my day job is I send a lot of expense reports, and the rental car rates have started to drop, but they were double what they should be in the Midwest. And then they're just now they're starting to drop. And I kind of assume that what's happened is they've been able to get some replacement cars, because that was the other problem is some of our guys that the people I work with, they couldn't rent cars. They go to the airport and they have to call a customer and say, I can't get a car. Can you pick me up? So you're right, majorly disrupted, and hopefully it gets back to normal, and hopefully we get competitive, low-cost bids. Any other questions about this before I go on to the next thing? I'm not hearing anything. So I'm going to move on to the next item, which is correspondence. Couple things. One, I guess the town owes a little bit of appreciation for Dmitry Tolchinsky, who donated his time and his expertise free of charge. And what I'm talking about is there was a wellhead in Hawks Nest number 11, that resident Steve Ross found out or mentioned or commented that the top was broken off. And what Dimitri was able to do is to fabricate a cover to close this off. And I don't know, Dimitri, if you want to say some words, but I'm thanking you because I couldn't get I don't think I could have gotten like our public works to figure this out.
Yes, there is not a big deal, but what happened originally was the cap. I assumed the cap was sticking up above the ground, right on the paving, where in the winter time the blade from a truck was cutting this off very easily. And I made the cap that the cover of the cap, it has a sleeve into the pipe, but the cover of the cap is only 1/8 of an inch thick, and I grind it off that when blade goes over it, it's gonna slide on and come out. So this is what I did, and thank you, Richard, but not a big deal. It's just time, but we all are volunteers, and we volunteer our time for good for the town, and this is what I did. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks.
The other correspondence I have is from Barry Weiner, the WPCA chairman in New London, confirming that he signed his part of the contract for the intermunicipal agreement, received the check, and sent it to the city council's office. And then I confirmed through some people I worked with in the city council that it's on the September 20th council meeting for signing. And the last bit of correspondence I think we already talked about is getting in touch with the Soundview Commission to see if there's any needs assessment that they have for stormwater work. And I think we all know that there is, but they might have a better historical expectation about what the priority is and what the things are. So that's the correspondence. Is there any questions about the correspondence? Okay. So now we're moving into item 6, new business. Any WPCA members have any new business? I'm not hearing any. So now we're into item 7, public comment. If this is your first time, since this is virtual, it's tough for us to figure this out. I'm going to go and unmute everybody. And what we do is, if you could say your name and I'll recognize your name, you make a comment. We don't engage in a back and forth. What we do is we listen to your comment, we track it down. We may respond after the public comment session goes. So at this point, everyone should be able to talk, but you'd have to unmute your phone. I just allowed attendees to, so I just hit the allow attendees to unmute themselves. So would anyone like to make a public comment?
Rich, Brian Cornell here on Portland Avenue.
Brian, you're recognized.
Thank you, sir. Unfortunately, my briefcase ended up in the wrong car today. What was the total that the total bids came in for originally that evidently over what was anticipated? And my second question is, so we put this back out to bid to everybody and their brother who wants to bid on it. And you said in October, we might see those. Do you know what the date those are due back in again, Mr. Prendergast? Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Would anyone else like to make a public comment?
Dennis Maluzzo, 7 Portland Avenue.
Hi,
Got a
Dennis.
couple
You're recognized.
Okay, got a couple of questions, couple of things. Joe had mentioned when he was giving his budget summary that the board gets this summary before it's ever read. This is the first time I've ever seen it on any broadcast of WPCA. And I'm asking that it should be attached to the minutes that are written so that the citizens can sit and evaluate the expenses and the payments. This is something that I asked for for transparency as to what the how much the WPCA spends, and I appreciate it. It's in a nice format, and I'm glad he's sharing it with everybody. Oh, that's not me.
If you could mute your phone when you're not talking, that'd be great.
There you go. So I'd like to be able to see that in the minutes when I download the minutes and print them out. And I'd like to know if we'll be able to do that. Also, on the abandoned well questions and mailings, at last week's design review meeting, the chair and Steve said that it's not the WPCA who's requesting this. You're on record. You guys are done with doing the mailings. The mailings were supposed to come from the DPH, whether it was Old Lyme's Health Department or the state of Connecticut. Because you sent out the notices and have discussed it on in meetings in at least 3 meetings that I know of. You're on public record that you're the agents of record for sending out the notices. It's my opinion you shouldn't have even done it. You should have laid it flat in the case of DEEP or the Department of Public Health, because now you're open for, if somebody challenges this, it's against the town of Old Lyme and not the state of Connecticut. I think that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Anyone else want to make a public comment?
Oh, if no one else comments, I will talk to you about stormwater. You don't have to talk to Frank. You can talk to any resident in Soundview as to stormwater problems. The storm catch basins that we have are just that. They're just catch basins. They're not piped to anything. As soon as you get into a high tide flood condition, the top 2 blocks of Soundview, that is from Martino Road all the way to the beach, flood. There's no place for it to go. There's Swan Lake, which is right next to Portland Ave, and that's one of the reasons why we often wondered why they would put a pump house in the middle of a swamp. But this last rainstorm, even Miami Beach had a car floating. So we have water problems down there, and it's just not Soundview. You can check the whole area, and you'll find out that we're lacking stormwater management down there, not just catch basins. Okay, thank you. Now I'm done.
Thank you, Dennis. Anyone else like to talk? Public comment. If you're talking, I'm not hearing you. And I don't see anyone, and all the participants can unmute their phone. So I guess there's no more public comment. We're going to close the public comment session. I'll make a couple responses regarding the bids. The original estimate for the bids was, it depends on who you talk to, because we had competing engineering companies giving the estimates, but somewhere in the $9 million range, and we came in at 18 million. We got the bids that came in at 18 million was from 2 companies that are related to, I guess, brothers that were one company and broke apart, and they didn't really attend any of the meetings, and they just kind of said, well, this is how much it's estimated. I'm sure we can make money if we double it. That's my opinion. I don't know what they did. Anyways, it was too expensive. And the second part of the due date of when the bids get open, I don't know exactly when that is. I was told mid-October. So the idea is the sealed bids go in at a certain time. It's out there in the public. I just don't have it on the top of my mind. Then they're evaluated. They're opened up and evaluated. And from there, there'll be some discussions about accepting or not accepting the bid. Related to the budget summary, no other committee posts their amount of money on their budget. And I really don't think we need to, in my opinion. It's not hidden. You can call up the town finance and ask them any time of the day, what's the amount? They are busy because they're doing stuff. So they seem to be pretty nice, but just like you call anybody else who's got a million things to do and you ask them something. And the WPCA budget is, you can go back as far as you want to find out where we're spending money, and it's a town-wide meeting that gets published every year. So I really don't see the need for it myself, but I'll talk to the officers of the WPCA committee, Joe, the treasurer, and Frank, and see what they think. And as far as the well abandonment letters, there is a good point that should be brought up and clarified. The Department of Health and Ledge Light required us to do this in order to go forward with the sewer plan, even though it is their responsibility. So we are required to, we're not technically required, we're only required if we want funding and want their support. So we'll send the letter out pointing out the Department of Health's regulations. That's what we're doing. So if somebody wants to sue us, they can sue us, I guess. Anyone can sue anybody, except they're suing us because the state's regulations are enforced. So I don't see how we could be liable for that. And I don't see how anyone could argue with it because it's the state regulations, and that's what the letters stay on this. I tried to argue Department of Health should do this. The beach associations argued more vigorously, and it just came down to, well, sorry, you have to do this. The Department of Health can be pretty aggressive when they want to with certain people, with certain departments. Just say that. That's all that I had. I don't know. I'll invite any WPCA members if they have additional comment. Steve, did you have a comment?
Yeah, on the drainage. The reason you have catch basins and no pipe is that the state DEP now wants water not to be transported off where it would normally seep into the ground. And so more and more areas, like even shopping centers now, don't transport their water off site. They collect it and let it seep back into the ground. So I don't think, based on current regulations, I don't see much hope for alleviating flood water type situations anywhere in the state or country, never mind down there in Soundview. Sorry to say.
Okay. Any other WPCA members commenting? I'm not hearing any. So at this point, it's the end of our meeting. I'd like a motion to adjourn. Steve raised his hand. Can I have a second? Frank Chan did a second. For those WPCA members are in favor of adjourning, could you raise your hands? Dimitri, Andrea, Rob,
Yeah.
how do you vote?
Aye.
Yeah,
Yes, yes.
So it's unanimous. Any opposed? Okay. So this meeting's adjourned. Thank you for attending this meeting, and have a good night and stay safe. Good night,
Thank you,
everybody.
everyone.